This is Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WyoRadio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines. Presented Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. And now, Dateline Wyoming.
This is your host for Dateline Wyoming, Tom Ellis. This morning we take a moment to check the economic pulse of the Rock Springs, Green River, and Sweetwater County area with our in-studio guest, Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce CEO, Dave Hanks. Dave, welcome to Dateline Wyoming. I want to talk a little bit about the local economy and some of the things that are going on around town. Let's just start with an update on what's going on out there in the world.
Obviously, the oil and gas industry is having a down cycle right now, and that's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. There's no doubt about that. But, we're pretty lucky being in Sweetwater County simply because everybody else wants to talk about diversification, and we have diversification within our economy. We're not a Gillette. We're not a one-horse town as far as industry is concerned. So you've got some things that have been going on for a while. Simplot is, about 750 workers out there finishing up that $1 billion project. That's a very good thing. You've got the power plant, the coal mines are doing fine. We have Tronopatch is doing fine. They're looking at some different programs and different activities out there. So you've got pretty good stability there. The other thing is that we have a very robust regional medical area here as far as services and those type of things, with both hospitals up and running right now. And then you have the community college, which is doing well. We have a lot of different things in this community of Sweetwater that a lot of other places don't have. If one thing goes down, we have other things that we can rely on. It doesn't mean that we don't feel the impact. We definitely are feeling the impact. However, it's not to the extent that a lot of our sister counties and sister cities are feeling, and the state of Wyoming at this time. They're feeling some major impacts as far as revenue streams.
There was a time when a downturn in the energy industry would definitely have some serious impact on Sweetwater County.
Yes, and and it still does. There's anytime that oil and gas, and mostly gas production, that's what we have over here is natural gas. It doesn't mean that they're not still pumping, natural gas out and that type of thing. They are, but the market price is not where it needs to be at, nor is it for oil, a barrel of oil. But, we look at it again, too, and I think in the state of Wyoming, there's a total of 11 rigs going, and over in this part of the country, we have 8 of them. There's some exploratory rigs, there's some retrofits that are going on, those type of things. So could it be better? Absolutely. Do we like oil and gas? We sure do. It's a lot of cash. It's a very cash liquid business, no pun intended, but it's very, as far as getting cash into the economy, they're a cash-driven business. When they need things, they pay cash for it. They do those type of things. But the other things, we can't lose sight of the fact that we have a very strong base economy out here with the other industry and extraction sectors that we have.
And the other industry that we haven't mentioned yet, of course, is that interstate that brings all those tourists down the road.
There's that little money belt that runs through there, and tourism again is important, and I'm glad you mentioned that. We're number 5 in the state as far as leisure dollars generated out there. There's very few towns, especially our size and even larger, that have actually 4 interchanges off of the interstate. That's a huge advantage for us.
One of the things that brings up is I understand we have a new facility for taking care of tourism and information.
I'm glad you brought that up.
How are we doing with that?
We're doing good. We have the new Rock Springs Chamber Visitor Complex. Facility's wonderful. I encourage anybody who has not been down to see our new facility, the new park, and the building itself, to please come down. We'd love to give you a tour of it. What we have found is that it's much more efficient as far as being able to deal with things such as our visitors, membership services, and even economic development issues. We're able to take care of more people much more quickly. Having the restrooms has really been an advantage, seeing as we had no public restrooms before. And if you ever drive by there, those pavilions are really starting to get used a lot by our visitors and local residents. They're using those things, having lunch and doing different things. I think it's a great addition. We're going to do some things this fall as far as utilizing that Chamber Park area down there to highlight some different events and activities. we're open till 6 o'clock at night during the summer season, and then we're open from 8 until noon on Saturday. We came in Monday morning. There was a little note slipped under our door, and it was a traveler that was coming through. Must come through either late Saturday or Sunday sometime. But anyways, he just scribbled a little note down and said, "Hey, I'm traveling from Atlanta to Salt Lake City. That I just really want to compliment you on your facility here." He said it's one of the nicest that I've come across. He says definitely one of the nicest coming across I-80, and just want to congratulate us on having such a nice, easily accessible facility that has drinking fountains for the people, has restrooms, has a place for their dogs, has a place for them to sit down and have a nice little lunch or whatever it may be. But it was kind of nice to see that. That's exactly what we intended when we started this program many, many years ago. Back in 2002, to have a facility like that was warm, was inviting, represented our community well, really kind of showcased what Rock Springs was, something we can be proud of.
That's been open, about almost 60 days now, approximately?
Yeah. Yep, right in that area.
Is it meeting expectations?
And it's meeting, staff-wise, it's meeting expectation, and community-wise, I think we're meeting expectations. I'm having a hard time gauging traffic exactly on it. Because we didn't really have good data. Last year we were in such a flux between moving into other facilities and smaller area and all that. It's hard for comparative numbers. What I have noticed is that we seem to be able to handle a lot more people easily. We don't feel, it used to be we'd have 4 people at the counter, one counter, and it was really cluttered. It was very difficult to deal with them. Now people are getting used to it. When they need certain things, such as tickets, Flaming Gorge passes, gift certificates, those type of things, they're going over to the ticket counter and they're getting taken care of, and their needs are being met there. Our visitors are coming to the visitor service counter. The Wi-Fi area out there, we had 2 different groups. We had a couple from Poland and a couple from Germany that came in different times. They spent almost 3 hours there at the Wi-Fi cafe, just sitting there, updating their emails, checking this, doing that, and doing exactly what we wanted them to do. And then they both of them headed down around Flaming Gorge. They wanted to spend some time here. It just doesn't seem like we are as rushed, I guess, which is a good thing. Ticket sales are going well right now. We started selling for Red Desert Roundup Rodeo and for the fair. And typically when we had that before, we were pretty jammed as far as being able to accommodate people. Now we have 2 separate POS systems. I mean, it's easy. We can run that. We can have them going at the same time. Somebody can be doing a gift certificate all at once, and we're not crowded. So that really has helped a lot for our customers.
Is there anything that surprised you about it as you're working with it now?
I think that the biggest surprise that I have had is that probably how efficient the building is as far as traffic flow. Being able to get people in and out of there. It's much improved from what it was. The other thing I think that surprised me a little bit, the positive response that we've seen from the citizens. People walk into it, they think it's beautiful. We're still got a few displays that we're working on. The response from industry has been great. We just finishing up an industry display down there, which is really very, very nice. Really depicts what makes this economy thrive here. But just a response from the public. They come in and it's like, wow. And I mean, we take them on a tour and they're just like blown away. And most of them didn't even know we had a basement before and things like that. And showing what we did with that as far as for brochure storage and work area and all that. So, that's kind of surprised me a little bit. People really noticed the difference. I'm glad they did, but sometimes you wondered when we were in a little yellow shed if anybody really knew what was going on. So it's been a very positive response from everybody, and we appreciate that. We appreciate everybody that helped with this. We had huge help from not only the city and the business council, but also from our businesses here. They really stepped up to make that, really theirs and helped us out and contributed. So thank you.
As you mentioned, that's been in process for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think you were in part of that, General. I think you were in part of those conversations back in 2002 when we started with the High Desert Interpretive Center and started working on those type of things, and went through a lot of different renditions of what we wanted and what we could, and basically it came out to what we could afford, because that facility is 100% paid for. It finished pretty much on time, slightly over, and we didn't go over budget, which was exactly what we wanted to have happen. So, it's been a long time. The good news about that, though, Tom, is that because of all that work that we did ahead of time for those many years, we got it right the first time. We got it right. We didn't have a lot of changeovers. We knew exactly where things needed to be, so that was a good thing.
I think that's a facility that the entire community, probably the entire county, can be proud of. The chamber wears a bunch of different hats. We've been talking about tourism, but economic development is something I know that you've also been working on, using the facility to implement.
We have, and I'm glad that you brought that up. As of July 1st, we've actually entered into a countywide unified business alliance. For about the last 2 years, the City of Rock Springs and the Rock Springs Chamber and its members have been actually supporting the economic development efforts of our community. And we've been doing that on a countywide basis, and concentrating on Rock Springs. As of July 1st, we actually have a budget line item with City of Rock Springs, the City of Green River, and the county. Everybody has stepped up to help with that alliance. And we actually had our first meeting just this last week. What we're trying to do there is really bring together everybody in the county, instead of trying to do a county effort, a Green River effort, and a Rock Springs effort. When we have people that are moving into the area, looking to relocate a business, start up a business, those type of things, they really don't care about city boundaries and county boundaries and those type of things. They're really looking at a more regional approach. The other thing is that, obviously with the downturn in the economy, city budgets and county budgets are tight. If we can pool our resources, we can get a much higher return on our investment when we do that. So that's what we've been doing. We are very thankful. We are very pleased to have Green River involved, and we are very happy to have the county involved. One of the first things that we're doing out there right now is we're looking at really gathering up the properties on a countywide basis for our GIS system. When people are looking to relocate a business or start up a business, one of the very first things they do is what is available property, space, rental space, lease, buy, what kind of facilities are available. We need this, we need utilities, we need a rail spur, we need those type of things. So we're really compiling that entire database. We've been working on it for a little bit, but now with the City of Green River and the county involved, we have a much larger reach out there. And they also have resources that they can bring to the table. And why that's important is because the Wyoming Business Council has actually changed the way that they're distributing leads out there. So if a business goes through, say somebody's going to come and relocate to Wyoming, and they contact the Wyoming Business Council. What's happening, what used to happen is they used to send out a blanket leads request, and everybody responded to it. And what's happening now is they're vetting those and they're qualifying those better. So those companies are actually going through the Wyoming Business Council, looking at the GIS system that we're uploading for properties, finding properties that are specific to their needs, and then those specific communities are getting those leads. They're not just a blanket approach anymore. So the more information we have on there, the larger selection of the inventory of the real estate that we have on there for commercial and industrial, obviously is going to put us in a much better light as far as getting those leads from those companies. Those companies will then be contacting us directly.
As a county-wide effort, I'm sure that that position that you can have with county and the two cities involved really gives you more to work with in terms of resources and also being able to present a better product to those people that are looking at it.
Right, and I think you're absolutely right, because what it helps us do is utilize a central point of contact instead of trying for instead of people, somebody coming in looking, you got to contact this organization, this government entity, this one, whatever. We have a central point of contact. And so we can come in and then, when we're looking at it, it doesn't really matter if the property is in the county, if it's in Farson, if it's in Green River, if it's in Rock Springs, what fits best for the needs of that business. And that's what we really are looking at, because bottom line is we all benefit, no matter where a business relocates into the county, we all benefit from that. And from a tax standpoint, from an employment standpoint, from a services standpoint. So it's just good to be able to really bring all those different properties together and be able to have that as far as a inventory that we can present out there. Just makes a better case along with the other things that we can do. Having that central point of contact is extremely important. We can feed those out. I mean, if there's something that looks like it's really going to fit with Green River has a representative on the Business Alliance. The county has a representative on the Business Alliance. The city has representatives on the Business Alliance. So we come to a conclusion, where's the best fit? Here are the top 2 or 3 properties that'll work for that. And that way, once we get to that point, then we can help direct them, coordinate, facilitate, and with the appropriate entity, whether it's a county planning and zoning, City of Rock Springs, or City of Green River planning and zoning, those type of things that we have to. One of the advantages, and you brought it up earlier, Tom, was talking about the building. So we actually have a business development office now, which we didn't have before. We actually have a conference room that we can sit down and have private, confidential conversations with these developers. And last year we had 70-some people that came in, either looking to start a business or that were looking to had property here that they wanted to develop, or there was a new business that they wanted to bring to the community. If you don't have something where you can sit down that actually looks like you mean business when you're doing business, it's very difficult to convince those people, those individuals, and those businesses that they should take you serious and come to your community.
Perception is really important.
It is. I mean, when they pull up there, it's got a great place. They come in, they meet our business development manager, which is Caleb McDonald. We'll sit down. Who do they need to talk to? We can meet in the conference room. I mean, it's just as much, plus we have a lot of the technology that we need now, looking at properties so that we can bring up, the planning and zoning maps for the cities, for the counties, and zero in on what they're looking at and different things like that. Here are the codes. Everything's right there on the website. It really makes it a much more professional presentation on behalf of our county and our cities.
You mentioned, of course, that the Business Alliance includes Rock Springs, Green River, the Sweetwater County. Who is actually making up the Business Alliance at this point?
Right now, we have representatives from all those entities. We also have both chambers involved. We've invited the Main Street programs to come in, and then we have private business that's in there. We're kind of working through that right now. Yesterday, we had a meeting, and I think we ended up with like 24 people there, which is a little large. And so, we're trying to work through that. But what we've done is we're finding that if we break it down into some smaller subcommittees to address certain specific things, like somebody, a smaller group to address the GIS issue as far as the property listing. One thing that we're looking at is a makerspace program. We've got a small group that's working on that right now. As we go through, then we have a small group that's working on really making sure that everything as far as the website is current, the information is current, that it's functional, that's usable, user-friendly for site selectors and those type of things. So we kind of break it into little pieces out there, and we find that that's very useful. When you get a bunch of people in a room together and you get that many people, it's hard to come to decisions sometimes. So we're heading that up. We're taking the input from our partners out there and trying to move this forward. We're kind of trying to feel our way as we go and see what works best and what is important to everybody. If there's a specific need within a community or a specific need within the county, we want to try to address those. And then on the leads and those type of things, we want to make sure that we're, not only being fair and equitable, but making sure that that we're looking at all options out there. You never know where an option is going to come from or where an opportunity is going to come from. I think it's going to be great. We'll just keep moving forward. There are certain benchmarks that we're setting for ourselves right now within a year that we want to hit. And when we hit those benchmarks, we can go back and report to our governing bodies what's happening, and hopefully they'll see this as a benefit.
What do you see as those benchmarks?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, we need to keep the unified thing going. We need to really kind of work through that. It's important. The other thing is definitely getting the properties. That's a huge thing. And, you would think that would be easy, but it's not an easy thing. If you go into that website and you look at it and you look at what it requires to get those posted on there, and then the information and data that generates for somebody coming in, it's not just simply, here's the property. It's got everything in it. Once you list that property, get the correct information. If I'm looking at it, I can tell you how many potential customers are within a 1 to 10 mile radius. What's the average wage in that radius? What is my competition doing? There's so many other components to that it generates out there that really can help you make a decision on where you should be. So that is one thing. The other thing is updating that website and really making sure that is getting that optimized as much as possible, because everything is being searched now. 90% of the information that is gathered before you even talk to a site selector is gathered online. So we really have to make sure it's optimized out there, that we are up on the search engines, that we are at the top of the list on 60 different search engines out there, making sure that when they come in and they punch in, business development or Sweetwater Economic Business Alliance or whatever it may be, we're looking for Sweetwater County. That's the first thing that comes up, because that's where we want to drive those site selectors to. The other thing is then working with our existing businesses. for business expansion and retention, and letting them know the tools that are available to them out there. I mean, on that site and the expertise that we have and the people that we can set them up with, we have over 700 different resources just on that site alone that can help our existing businesses out there. So that's really important to maintain those businesses that we have.
We have talked previously about something called gap analysis.
The retail gap analysis is something that we're looking at. We call it a revenue recapture program. What we're looking at doing is that we all know how important sales tax is to our local governing entities out there. It basically drives what the cities and towns and even the county can do. We know that we have a tremendous amount of leakage in certain areas within Sweetwater County. I think one of them would be sporting goods. And we have Sportsman's Warehouse coming in here now. Well, what the retail gap analysis does, it will identify where that leakage is. It will tell us that in this category here, for instance, say sporting goods, you had $30 or $35 million a year annually that's leaving your community, being spent in Salt Lake, most likely. It'll also tell us that if we have sectors that are actually bringing in more market than they should sustain based on our population. For instance, probably hardware stores and those type of things, because we have the Ace Hardware stores in both communities. We have people like Home Depot, we have White Mountain Lumber, we have Blowhorn, we have Sherwin-Williams, we have Bennett Paints, we have all those type of things. I am sure that this is going to come back and say that you're actually drawing in from a larger market area. You're drawing people from Pinedale, you're drawing people from Big Piney, you're drawing people from all over that are coming, because you have such a large inventory for them to be able to do. What we'll do is we'll find out where those gaps are. We'll take and identify them. How can we generate more sales tax? So we'll do two things. Number one, we'll identify them, and not only will we identify them, but we'll say how many square feet of retail space are we lacking for that. So you could do another $30,000 or $50,000 worth of retail space, sales space for X category. Then with that, we can take and talk to our existing businesses out there. Are there products and services that are not being provided, that are being purchased elsewhere, that they could actually add to their mix? Hopefully that will help them as far as expand their products and service line. It'll help us with our growing population demographics. The other thing is that the stores, Tom, that you and I shop at or have shopped at or used to shop at is maybe not the exact kind of stores that demographic that we have that's average age of 31 is shopping at. We have to look at that. We have to look at, are we missing some market segments out there that this younger population is really wanting? I did perfectly fine without an Apple store, but a lot of people like Apple stores, so it's not something I grew up with, so it's not something that I think of, but a lot of the younger people do. For an example, 10 years ago, how many cell phone stores were there out there? Not very many. Now how many? They're all everywhere. So those are the kind of things that'll help us identify. Quality of life, some issues. I think that by having a good retail mix within your community, what you do is you help with your retention of workforce out there by providing them the things that they are looking for, and which relates into retaining your workforce. And that's really important. We need to retain our workforce because we still have quite a bit of retirement that's going to come through this community in the next few years. A lot of people at the mines, the plants are ready for retirement. So we have to have something that's attractive to those 25 to 35-year-olds because that's who they're hiring out there. We want to make sure that we have that. We hope to identify some entrepreneurial opportunities. And there's some things out there that aren't being done. Maybe if you'd like to start a small business, this would be something that we have the data now that says this is a gap, this is how much we think that can be generated. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to start up a business. So we want to provide that entrepreneurial development, that entrepreneurial spirit, foster that out there. So really it's all those things combined. It will help us to identify those type of things. We have some committed money already for this. We're going to go to the Business Council on September 8th and talk to them because we want to get an analysis done. It's going to cost a little bit of money, but we think that we can get it raised. We have a few different options out there for doing it. And it'll be a county-wide. It'll be the City of Rock Springs, City of Green River, and the county. It's not going to be any one entity. We're going to look at the downtown in both of those areas. We're going to look at the surrounding areas. We're going to look at some of the outlying areas to see really what's available.
What's the time frame on this?
Well, if we got the money, which is, that's always up in the air right now, then it'd go before the SLIB board in October. So then we could start this probably late December, January. If not, we have another source that we're looking at, which will be the first quarter of 2017 that we can actually get this done.
by the middle of 2017, we'd have information back. Is that kind of where
I think you're absolutely right on that. Doing the analysis will take a little bit of time, but there's a lot of information out there already that we've gathered. We just need somebody who is an expert in interpreting this stuff and knowing what it's saying to help us. The latest, really, in June of 2017, that we should have this gap analysis completed and have the data back.
We've covered a lot of topics this morning, but any final thoughts on where we are with our economic development?
Over the years, we keep hearing, and we've heard this, and I've heard it for 35 years, is that, we need to diversify our economy. We need to diversify our economy. I hear this from people running for office and those type of things. If you have an idea, a good idea on how to diversify our economy, we'd love to hear it. I think that there are ways to diversify the economy. We are diversified to a certain extent. There are limiting factors within it. Limiting factors are transportation. Limiting factors are how far are we from the market. Limiting factors are what are the raw materials that are available and those type of things within our community. So we have to be realistic as we go forward. I think we have to approach it from a standpoint of what is doable, not what we would like to see, but what is actually doable, what is feasible. We need to do our due diligence. But I think there are some opportunities out there. And with technology and the way things are changing, those opportunities change every day. And new opportunities become available. And we need to look at that. Our goal is going to be to try to explore some of the things that aren't so traditional, some of the things that will actually add value to our existing economy that we have and our existing businesses out there. We just really need to take a little bit different approach on what we're doing. And then we have to be consistent and we have to be tenacious. We have to get after it. When we get after it, we can't be sidetracked. We have to focus on something, agree upon something as a community, as a county, and then go after it.
And I think it's also important to understand that this isn't something you just flip a switch on. It's a process, and it has to be developed. But if you don't start somewhere, you're not going to get there.
You're right. I mean, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? It does take time, and you know that. I mean, we were involved in other economic development organizations for many years, and it just takes time. Absolutely. You have to establish those relationships out there. You have to have, the other part of it is you've got to have what these companies are looking for, whether it be a new product or a new widget that's that can be developed here. You've got to work with those people. You got to get them in here, work with them, show them why they should be here. Because, we're just one of 5,000 different economic development organizations in the U.S. Guess what? They're all trying. They're all trying to compete.
And they've all got a story to tell.
They all got a story to tell. They're a great place to live. They have a wonderful workforce. I mean, yada, yada, yada. It goes on and on. We have to be real. I think that's the biggest thing. We have to be really real on what we're looking at. We have to make sure that we're trying to go after things that are attainable. And working together, I think, is a huge advantage, having a unified effort on a countywide basis and having leadership. Having the leadership support the effort and leadership so that when we have a company come in that, the commissioners, the mayors, the councils, those type of things are supportive of those efforts and are willing to talk to them and sit down with them. Lend their support. That's extremely important. It's important to those companies. So I think that we have that. I think that our leadership is ready to step forward and do that in our community. We're very happy with what we've seen and the support that we've gotten from both Green River, Rock Springs, and the county. And I think that we're poised to go forward and do some things that are a little bit different than we've done in the past.
Our guest on Dateline Wyoming has been Rock Springs Chamber CEO Dave Hanks. Dave, thanks for coming in this morning.
Tom, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You have been listening to Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WyoRadio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines, presented weekly at this time. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made for responsible dissenting opinion. Join us next Sunday at 7 a.m. for Dateline Wyoming.